All right, and we're on. Okay, morning everybody. Is everybody having a good camp so far? Yeah? How many of you, is this your first day at Drupal camp? This is you guys, everybody was here yesterday, huh? Oh, that's great, cool. Well, welcome to my talk. My name's Rich Hummel. My company is Sage Tree Solutions. We're down here in San Diego over close to Horton Plaza. Let's see. This is Sage Tree's third sand camp that we've been to, and if you've seen any of my talks before, you know that I tend to talk about Eclipse a lot. And actually, development with your debugger is actually a repackaged Eclipse talk. A lot of people frown on using Eclipse because it is big, it's bloated, and they complain about it being slow. And my response to that is basically it's true. It's big, it occupies a lot of your memory, and it makes your battery life frankly suck, right? But it has a wealth of features and tools that help me code faster and just basically ship code a lot faster. And it is a great tool in anybody's pursuit of becoming a Drupal ninja. You heard WebChick say it, the Drupal community needs more developers, and it's just a great tool to have in your tool belt to be able to understand the code and also just to learn the code faster. That means you're going to be able to build more kick-ass Drupal sites, and you'll be able to make more modules and squish more bugs in your issue queue. So why use a debugger when you're actually doing development, right? It's usually, when you think about it, it's for after the code's been fielded and you're trying to figure out what's going on, right? Well, the thing is, just like with debugging, when you are building something, you can see what you're putting into the code and see what's coming out, but that stuff in the middle, it's a black box. You don't really know exactly what's going on. And then when you're developing with your debugger, you have that insight. Unless the machines take over really soon, this is probably the closest you're going to get to being inside the matrix, where you can jump in, stop time, basically stop the flow of your code, inspect the variables, check out what's going on with the global variables, see the call stack, follow the call path, and execute your code line by line and see exactly what's going on. And with this level of insight, it makes coding a lot easier, a lot faster, right? You can see basically you have a palette of all the tools and all the variables that you have to work with, and then you can just see, okay, I just need to connect this up with this and just set this variable to this value and return this particular array, and then you're producing code a lot faster. So basically, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how to set up your environment. I'm going to kind of go really quickly through that. I'm just going to cover the main points. How to start developing with your debugger, and basically launch your debugger. And then I'll also give you a tour and then show you what I do when I'm actually implementing code. So, okay, so the prerequisites is a local development environment. I use MAMP. I have a Mac, so you can use LAMP, or if you are a Linux user, whichever version of the LAMP stack that you like, and Eclipse or NetBeans or whatever IDE you use, as long as it, I don't care really too much whether it's Eclipse or NetBeans, but like these IDEs with these, these features, the integrated debugger and all the other stuff that it comes with, they really help you code faster. So I'd really encourage everybody to look into it further if you're like using, I don't know, Vim or TextMate or whatever. Yeah, Notepad. Yeah, even Notepad. Okay, so when you set up, just on your environment, you have your LAMP stack, basically Apache, PHP, and MySQL. right? And then you have your IDE, which is, in this use case, it's Eclipse, right? So the one thing that you have to do with your local environment, and if you Google or check on Drupal.org how to set up a local development environment, there's lots of how-tos. So so I'm going to leave that as an exercise for everybody here, because that can be a whole presentation in itself. But it's gotten a lot better over time, and so it should be pretty straightforward if you just follow the how-tos. So the one thing though, when you're setting up your local environment, is just make sure that you have that didn't work. You have down here, if you look at the bottom, you have the XDebug extension enabled. This is the bottom of the file, so I can't push it up any higher. But anyways, just make sure you have the XDebug, and that enables the extension in your local Apache instance. And then basically what it does is it opens up a port. The default port is port 9000. Right, so you have Apache listening on port 80 or port 8080, and then you have the debugger listening on port 9000, and then that allows Eclipse to connect to Apache and then actually stop the code and then see what's going on, right? So I believe, I don't know, I think it comes enabled by default. I may be wrong. It's been a while.
Your PHP image?
Yeah, it's on my PHP INI. So under MAMP, bin PHP, PHP 536 in the configuration, in the conf directory. And if I go too fast over anything, please stop me and ask. And then just down at the bottom, I have the Zend extension enabled. And so that allows Apache, again, that gives you, allows Apache to listen, or to connect to Eclipse so you can start your debugging session. Okay? Is everybody following so far? At least in theory? Yeah? Okay.
Can I find this on the PHP info?
Oh, yeah. If, yes, if you have it enabled, and you go to, let's see, I don't know if I have, local.
Running MAMP is on MAMP up there.
I don't think I moved my aliases around. Let me. There we go. So if you look at the PHP info, let's see, XDebug. It'll show you that that it's enabled. You can see it listed in PHP info. And I think there should be more. Yeah, here's the configuration. So there's a lot of configuration values in here. Unless you get really, really into it, you don't really have to worry about it. This is probably the longest I've ever looked at it. So, but this is how you can tell that you have it enabled correctly. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Sorry. So I guess on my install on my local, I don't have XDebug. Do you know Julia on their squishing inside?
I'm not sure. You may need to Google it. If you just Google the XDebug, I think you should be able to download it too. Ishmael, did you have a comment?
They don't, but there's like a post and I set all this up on Stack. So, the actual Stack and
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Ishmael said that check out the Acquia stack. There's how-tos posted on their website. So thanks, Ishmael. Okay, so that's PHP, and then the next part is Eclipse. Okay. I believe by default, debug if you have Eclipse with the PHP, the PDT, the PHP Developers Toolkit enabled, it should have the XDebug debugger installed already. And like I said, the default port is 9000. All you have to do is just remember that the ports map up, because this is where Eclipse is going to be connecting to your Apache instance, so it can look at the code or stop the code. And that's one part of the Eclipse configuration, right? Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit more of how to set up the debugger. So you can get in here in a second. So the next question I often get is like, how do you set up your project so you can debug it and stop your code and pause it. Basically what I do, my workflow, is I will download the code either from the Git repository, or I'll start up a new code base somewhere on my local system. So if you look, I have, where'd it go? Docs, Phoenix, whoops, wrong Phoenix. So I have the Phoenix directory. This is the project that I was working on, and my Drupal root is just here in Drupal. Right? This should, if you guys have been playing with it, all these files should look somewhat familiar to you, right? And so when I set up my project in Eclipse, I go to new PHP project, and I'm going to call it Phoenix. And then one of the things I'm going to do that you have to be aware of is I'm going to create the project at an existing location, because I already downloaded all the code from Git, or I installed it somewhere that Apache's wired up to serve it from on my local host. So I'm going to click Browse, and then you can see it's my home directory, htdocs, and Phoenix. Okay, and then click Open. Oops, I don't want actually Git. So there's that. And then everything else I could leave as default, and then just press Finish. And so what Eclipse is doing now is it's taking a look at the code base, it's indexing all the files, and just taking a look at it so it knows where everything's at, right? And so now I have a Drupal project in Eclipse, okay? And you can see all the files. It's basically, this is one of the things with Eclipse is that you have different views. This is the PHP developers view, so you can kind of see on the left side, it's kind of like a file explorer. And then I'll show you in a second. On the right panel, that's basically your text editor. Let's see. Okay. So this is generally where I'll do a lot of writing, my code editing, but this isn't the debugger view. So this is like when you're in the workspace, when you're just like working on text. And then just in a second, I'll show you how to get the debugger set up. Is everybody following so far? All right. So now let's get into the debugger. Now, I know it's kind of a long build-up, but once you're in there, it's worth it. Trust me. All right. Okay. So next, we're gonna go in here and debug configurations, and then we're gonna set up our debugging profile as a PHP web page. You see here there's a couple options. There's a PHP script and PHP web page. PHP script is only if you're going to be running and you want to debug a PHP script that you run from the command line. It's like running from as a shell script, right? We want to run it as a PHP web page, which tells Eclipse to connect to the local host and let Apache actually run the script, and then you'll connect to it, right? So when you set up a new one, I already have one set up from previous one. You just give it a name. You make sure that you select the XDebug, and then if you don't have a PHP server already set up, you just select New, give it a name, and then I have everything set up as .local, so I know that I'm working on my local host. And then I select the local web root, which is going to be my Drupal root. Oh, okay. It doesn't like it because I already have another one set up, the base URL. So let me just show you that, the rest of that.
Well, this is going to modify your HTTP, your Apache conf file, right?
No, this is all within the context of Eclipse. Okay? This is basically just telling Eclipse what URL you need to connect to start your debugging session. Yeah, Steve.
Once you set up a server, a PHP server in this case, that's persistent across all projects. So
No, you'd have to set, if you have like, you know, project1.local and project2.local, you'd have to set up project2.local just like this. But it's pretty easy though.
But would you be able to use the same web root? Let's say project 2 is a different branch of your repo or something. Open it up separately. I can't
A web
in use
root.
case. I'm just saying, it's not one setup for that PHP server. It's on a per project basis.
Yeah, that's the way I work. I'm not sure if you could do it that way. If you could set up Eclipse to work with what, multiple web roots, or was that yeah. So this is just how.
It's the debugging part that I'm interested in. So,
Yeah.
So you're saying that debugger, the settings that you're giving this particular XDebug
Right.
that you're setting up are going to be related specifically to this project.
Yes. Yeah. So, all right. Okay, just finishing up the server configuration. I'll show you the rest of the configuration options. So basically, just give it a name, base URL. So when you launch the debugger, this is the URL that Eclipse is going to launch. And this is the local web root, basically, so Eclipse knows where to find all the files that it needs to debug. Okay. One of the things, though, okay, so that's the first thing. The other items that you have to be aware of is that it's going to ask which file that you want to start, and I always start off with just index.php. So you just go into the browse and then select Drupal, then index.php. So this is just so Eclipse knows which file to look at once it establishes its debugging session, right? And then sometimes, if auto-generate's checked, it will append the path to the file in there. But I just leave that off, and we don't really need that. Again, there may be more elegant ways to do this, but this is the way that I found that works for me. So this is just basically how I do it. Okay, so now that you have the debug profile set up, let's debug. Okay, so now what it's doing is it's launching. You can see in the bottom right corner, it's again like re-indexing, making sure it has all the code, index Eclipse, and then it's going to launch. What launch are you running? Oh, I was practicing earlier. Let's try this again. All right, pretend you guys aren't seeing this. All right. All right. Debug configurations. Phoenix and press debug. Okay, so what it's doing is, first of all, you'll notice it basically launched that URL that I just entered into that debug profile. And right now it established a debugging session, right? You need to make this is just basically like your connection. Like when, I don't know how many of you guys used to use modems. Basically, it's like, it's just establishing the connection. So now Eclipse is talking to the interpreter on PHP in your local host. Right? And then if I'm going to switch to the debugging view, Normally it should automatically switch to this, but I'm not sure exactly what happened just there. But anyways, you could tell that you have a connection set up. If you go to the web page and you hit, just do something. Yeah, okay, good. So you can see a little activity here that something's happening. All right, so basically Eclipse is saying, oh, something's happening. I'm listening to Apache, and let me see if there's any breakpoints that I need to stop the code on. Right now, since I don't have any breakpoints set up, it's just letting everything go through and return the HTTP response like normal, right? Okay. Okay, so that is how you establish one. The next is how to set a breakpoint, right? Does everybody know what a breakpoint is? Anybody not know what a breakpoint is? So a breakpoint is, all it is like a bookmark where you tell Eclipse and Apache, hey, when I'm executing the code, stop here and let me look around, okay? And so with Eclipse, let's see, let's do this pre-process. I was working in here earlier. I'm going to tell Eclipse, when you're building up the response for a client, stop right here on line 128 of Phoenix.module. Stop and let me look around, right? Okay, so now that I have a breakpoint enabled, when I hit the website again, Firefox is going to request the web page, but now you'll see that there's some interesting stuff happening here on the debugging page, right? So let's just give you a quick tour. Right here in this panel right here, or this window, this is the call stat. So you can see exactly what function calls got you to this point. And it's really helpful in here so that you can, just by looking at it, you can see that the code passed through the context. So my code's probably being activated somehow via the context module, right? And then you can see, you can walk up and down the whole call stat. And so you can see how you got to that particular point in your code, right? So it's the call stat. Over here you have the variables. And at the top you can see, if you double click on a tab, it maximizes it to the window. You can see your global environment variables. This is the insight that I was talking to. You know, you pause the code and you can look around and see exactly what's going on. You can see what's in the cookie, what's in the GET request, what's in the server. One of the interesting or features, quote unquote, of Eclipse is if it has an array or an object, it indexes them by number here. So you have to drill down an extra level. But you can see all the values in the server. So this is what's going on right now as Apache is trying to fulfill this request. So here's all the globals. Then here you can see all the local variables in the local scope. Right? Excuse me. In the vars, you can see, you know, zebra is set to odd, and you can look at the template files, but that's just an empty array. Let's see, directory is just a string, and then user. Here's the user class or the user object. You can see that I am UID 0. Basically, I'm anonymous, and I have the anonymous user role. So you could really, you know, look at the variables and have a good look of what's going on. Okay, so it's the variables. One of the other neat things that you can do is you can actually execute code inline. So right now, you know, you have the Apache stop. If you go up here, and then what would be an interesting thing to do? I don't know. Drupal set. This is kind of a lame example, but I want to show you that you can actually execute code in the middle. So if you want to like call a function or something to see what's going on, you could do that. Look at that. So it didn't do anything quite yet. It shows that it returned an array. right? So that's the expression. So that's another way that you can inspect your code and see what's going on. And then the other thing that
Sorry,
Oh.
where is it, so you're putting that in, like, where is it in relationship to the other code? Is it like at the breakpoint?
yeah, it's what I did just right here is basically expressions are evaluated every time you hit a breakpoint. So that's another way. If like a value needs to be computed or something, this is one way to do that. But it's just like when I hit a breakpoint, I'm going to execute Drupal set message, hi there. So you're actually executing it's as if you just, right before line 128, inserted a Drupal set message call, right? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, so that's the expressions, and then you have your breakpoints. And basically, this is just a list of the bookmarks where you told Apache to, hey, stop and let me take a look around. There's this interactive console which sounds really cool, but I haven't figured out how to get that to work, so I just largely ignore that. So I can't type in there, so ignore that. And then here's the code. So it actually shows you which line you stopped at, and then here's also an outline of the code, so you can quickly get an overview of all the functions that are available in this particular file that I'm opened at. Okay? Does anybody have? Yeah, Steve.
You can speak generally since the interactive console is something that you're not using, but the
Yeah.
idea behind it would be that you can execute PHP using the variables at that moment in time, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you wanted to, that's all.
Yeah. That sounded really cool. Yeah, but that's basically what I use expressions for. It's because you can run code at that point in time. Okay.
If you had a large loop and you wanted to set sort of a watch and then a conditional break based on value.
Yeah. One of the things. Yeah. I'm sorry. What's your name again?
Dan.
Dan just asked about conditional breakpoints. You can totally do that too. I'll show you in a minute how to set it up. But if you click on the breakpoint, where is it? Breakpoint properties. There you go. You can set a condition on when to break, because like sometimes you maybe want to look at a piece of code, but it might get called like 50 times, and you don't want to slog through every 50 times waiting for that one condition that you're looking for, and then you could actually use this to filter on when to stop, which is really a powerful tool too. And I'll actually give a demo on that in just a couple minutes.
Will the property read the runtime variable, or is this like a value that you're passing in for?
It'll read the runtime variable. Yeah. Oh, one other thing that's really cool though that you can do is say you're kind of debugging a piece of code, and you want to reset the value of a variable, right? You could actually do that over here in the variables. Like if you click here, just click once. You can set it to even. And then if you keep on stepping through your code, then you can see what happens next, with these different variables, and you don't have to set up this elaborate, way to set up your code so this value is even. You can do that inline as you are as you're debugging it. Like I said, it's kind of like being in the Matrix. You can kind of alter reality when you stop it, right? So, okay, so that's basically all the stuff that the debugger is going to tell you that I know about. Okay, let's just review stepping through basically navigation, right? So right now you can see that I'm stepped on this node menu get object. So there's step over. So right now it's like if I was a video player, it's like I'm on pause, right? If stepping over is like pressing the next frame, go to the next, execute that line of code, go to the next line of code, right? And so you could see, you could see I went through line 28, then I hit this big if block, and then none of this evaluated true, so I jumped down to this else block down here, right? So that's stepping over. You can step into, that's F5. And that's just like getting you down deeper into the call stack.
Sorry, real quick.
Yeah?
So I noticed that it went from the beginning of the if down to the else.
Yes.
It looks like it skipped all the else ifs that was in between.
Did it? Let's take a look. If.
And then it went,
Oh yeah, it did skip all.
shouldn't have hit those.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Maybe it didn't even
Yeah,
save or something.
I think it's because it's not actually calling a function, or it's a breakable. It's a
Did you
breakpoint.
step over or a step into?
I did a step over, so I think you're right. It should have stopped at the next else if, but it didn't. I'll have to take a look at that. Node type, core sequence. I'm thinking.
It's still a single statement.
Yeah. I beg your pardon?
I think it's still a single statement when you have them chained in the else if, it's still one evaluation.
Oh, that could be it
There
too.
were separate if statements.
Right.
You get to see each one.
It's,
That's what I
yeah.
was kind of
Right. Okay, so yeah, basically we're gonna step into it so you could jump down deeper into the call stack, see what's going on in a function that's deeper down, and then there's also step out of if you're done looking at whatever's going on in this space. You can step out. It'll execute the rest of the code at that level and jump you back one level up in the call stack. And then there's just basically continue, and that tells the debugger to go ahead and just continue playing the rest of the execution step. Okay. Until it hits the breakpoint again, which it did. Apparently, this preprocess gets hit twice when fulfilling a request. I'm just going to go ahead and play it. Okay. Cool.
A quick question about the XDebug.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if it puts any load on the system? Like, would you turn this not have it on in production?
I wouldn't have it. It does, it does put it in, add a load. The question was, does it add a load to the system? Yes, it does. And also, having having port 9000 open on a production system where somebody might be able to, if somebody finds it, they could attach their debugger and start really messing with stuff. So I wouldn't really recommend, turning it on in a production system unless,
Actually, you should
Yeah.
definitely never
Yeah.
turn it on in production system.
right, yeah.
Keep it on dev, never take it off.
Yeah. So, okay, so we went over setting up your project, debugging 101, how to set breakpoints, did the debugger tour. Okay, so development with your debugger. So this is the technique. It's really pretty straightforward. It's only 2 steps, 3 if you include the repeat one. So basically establish a beachhead, find a place where you can stop the code where you want to do your development, and just start tweaking around, start developing. When you stop, you can see what variables you have that you can play with. Develop your desired behavior, and then repeat until finished. Basically, just each step. So let's go over that. So down here, I have a where is it? Node API. Here we go. So I was trying to think of a really cool example that's like relevant and actually a interesting use case, but I couldn't. So I'm just going to say, let's pretend we wanted to just add an ID to the end of a page title, right? And here I implemented the Node API hook. And so every time a node, this hook is called a lot whenever you're accessing, saving, whatever, doing whatever with nodes, right? And so I want to intercept the execution path in here, and I want to do some stuff, right? So let's do it. So one of the things that I'll often do is once I start implementing a hook or something, I'll just make a dummy statement where I can establish a breakpoint, right? So I'm going to put a breakpoint on this x equals 1. That way I can stop the code, and then I can see what the node, the op, and any additional arguments are passed in, right? So let's Oh, you can see the Drupal set message from my previous request. Okay, so you can see the Phoenix Node API hook is getting called, and then let's see. Whoops. You can see we're doing the load op. You can take a look at the node. It's a page type. So you can kind of see what you have to work with, right? And one of the also really valuable things is I always get caught by referencing objects as arrays and arrays as objects. And when you're looking at this, it's pretty helpful to understand if you're working with arrays or classes, objects. Okay, so let's see. I wanted to work with page nodes, right? So then I can see that the node type is page, so I can just do a little if block. Where is it? If node type equals, oops, that's not right, page, then I want to do some other interesting stuff. Right, now I'm going to move my little breakpoint down here. I'm going to let so I actually edited the code while the debugger was paused. So it's important to know that the debugger is still operating under the originally saved code. So none of this is actually being executed right now, right? So I'm just letting it go until I can do another round and pause the execution flow. Oops. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to do step 3, repeat. And I'll pause here, and I can see that the op is load. But let's say, but you saw earlier though, right? I was getting called a lot of times because it gets called on, load, view, and there's some other times when the execution path passes through this node API hook, right? So let's say I only wanted to stop it if we were doing a load, right? So I could do op. Actually, let me just show you what it's doing right now. So you can see right now the ops load, but then it also gets called, oops, and the view, alter, and then here's the other breakpoint that I'm going to unset that I don't want to stop at anymore. And then it just keeps on going until it finally returns the response to Firefox. Right? So the thing with the conditional breakpoints is if you go to the breakpoint properties, you can see if the op. So this is what you were talking about, Steve, evaluating the runtime parameters. Op equals what is it? Load, right? And so now next time I run through the code, it should only stop when the operation is a load. And you can see that's the only time that it stops, which is really useful if you're trying to debug a function that calls a lot, yeah. Right? And so let's see. So if I want the load, switch op case load break. What do I want to do? So I'm going to move the breakpoint again over here. And I want to, so now I know, like, I have the conditions where I want to start tweaking that node title. I'm going to run through it one more time. Yeah, exactly. Find the variable. So I know this is really simplistic, but hopefully this illustrates the point. So Yeah, so you have the node object. You could look at all the values and the object, and then what happened to the title? Did I pass it? Okay, here's the about. If I wanted to double check, like I was saying, the inline editing, I could. Is this what I want to tweak? You can actually just reset the value of the variable inline, just to do a quick little test, and then let it go through. And then when the page is returned, you say, okay, that is the value that I want to edit. And so I'll just do a node title is equal to, or concatenate with let's pretend Phoenix get title node. So right now, let's pretend like you wanted to do some kind of external lookup to get that value to append to the title. Right now, it's just a stub function that returns 42 because that is always the answer. But it could query the database again or get it from some other place, and yeah, and that's basically it. Let's double check, see what happens. Oops, looks like I had the old. I gotta confess though, sometimes it is a little buggy, right? Like I didn't have that breakpoint set up here, but it still broke on this line number, line 169. So you have to be a little patient with it, but it still gives you a lot of insight into your code, right? So I'm just gonna let it go through, and then let's see what happens with Firefox. So we're appending that ID to that title. Yeah.
Other than debugging your debugger.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you're saying back here. Is there a differentiation in your runtime between objects and arrays?
Oh yeah.
Does it actually differentiate those?
Yeah, it does. So let's
say here.
check it out one more time. So the differentiation between objects and arrays, when you have it paused, uh-oh, what did I do? Let's try one more time. Maybe. Uh-oh. Okay, here we go. So you can see right here, like the globals, this is how it specifies an array, right? So it basically just says array. And then if you're working with a class, it'll say standard class over here. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how you could. One thing that you could also do, which is kind of neat, is if you're inspecting stuff, you can get some information when you do the hovers over the variable names. So that's kind of neat. You see, instantly see that op is set to load, so you don't have to go in here. But anyways, that is it. So it looks like, yeah.
Did you actually went and remove, is this what I want on the title?
Actually, that I didn't remove that. I dynamically set the value when I paused it. So I paused it, I reset the value according to what I wanted. It's not anywhere in the code because I did it dynamically. Then I let it play out the rest of the way, and then that's how.
So you only use it that one time?
Yeah, it's only that one time. Yeah.
So this variables is all
Yeah.
runtime only values.
Right.
So if you modify them once.
Yeah. And so the last thing is just disconnecting. You just press stop, and then you'll see that it ends your debug session. Then when you hit the website, Eclipse is no longer listening to Apache to find out when to stop the code. Now it's just Apache's running standalone.
The debug libraries are still running, right?
They're still there, but they're not connected. When you press stop, it disconnects Eclipse from
But
Apache.
there's still a load happening on server or another PHP engine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you don't want to leave all that stuff in there when you move to maybe doing load testing and other stuff like that.
Well, I mean, if when you start moving to load testing, yeah, you turn off you wouldn't put the XDebug module in PHP anymore. And so that's basically it for the demo. Other cool things that are happening. Oh, did somebody have a question?
So I
Yeah.
took NetBeans and
Okay.
this will work.
Yeah, it should work. I actually converted to NetBeans for a while, but I couldn't stay because my hands were used to the Eclipse shortcuts, and so it just became too. I just reverted back. So, one of the things that you guys should be, if you guys jump into Eclipse, Chris Charlton is building he has built a Drupal plugin. The usefulness was kind of limited, I think, in its current version, but I was talking to him earlier, and he's got a whole bunch of cool new features that's going to make developing Drupal super easier, and just a lot of really cool features that he was talking about. So you should check out this conversation on groups.drupal.org. Some of the cool features include like the, what is it? Giving Eclipse the awareness of, like, say, the forms API. So instead of having to refer back to api.drupal.org, when you're starting to build out a form, it'll give you all the required fields, all the optional ones that you could just kind of pick from, and it'll help you crank out your forms faster. More awareness of the hooks, and it sounded really, really cool. I was really excited about it. So I'd recommend checking that out.
Does Eclipse have intelligence built in? Or?
Yes, it does. Yeah. That's it. Does anybody else have any comments or, yeah, questions?
I have two questions. One is, have you heard of Aptana? I know it's on Eclipse. I haven't used it, but I have a lot of fellow developers who kind of told me about it. And then you were mentioning NetBeans. I don't know. My dev environment is kind of basic, because I hate code. But I mean, I'm kind of feeling like I probably should move to one of those tools. Do you have any recommendations between the three of those?
NetBeans has a lot of the similar features, I think, I'd imagine. And it's really up to you. It's a personal preference. I think Aptana is just something built on top of Eclipse. And we were talking about it earlier. It's Doug
it's
likes
basically
it.
the same, a little different in the interface, you know. So some people like it, some people don't. But it basically uses the Eclipse plugin, so you've still got all of the goodies he's talking about.
So if I install XDebug, will I have that for Aptana? Or use that?
I think so. So since Aptana is built on top of Eclipse, I'd imagine the process in getting it set up would be very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, one of my problems is, and I know I'm probably the best person in this room who's converted to Git, but I'm still on Subversion.
It's totally cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So
You may not have a choice either.
Yeah,
right,
that's true.
the other thing. But if I, whether I stay on Subversion or move on to Git, I mean, does Aptana or Eclipse have?
Oh, in short, yes. Let me show you. We use Git at Sage Street. And I have I think it's the Git Eclipse or Git something plugin. And I didn't, because I set it up, I didn't share it, or I didn't enable it, but you can enable the repository plugin. Next. User create. Finish. And so now Eclipse is aware of Git, and I can use it to check stuff out, push to upstream, pull, showing the history, which is kind of neat. This is kind of like GitX, if you ever seen it. You can see all the stuff that's going on. So it does have, and it has a similar plugin for Subversion too. So
Yeah, App has that, or Aptana has that sort of already started, built in or turned on.
hmm yeah,
Oh, maybe.
yeah. So before, does anybody have any other questions? Anything? Okay. Again, my name is Rich Hummel. I'm with Sage Tree Solutions. If you want a Drupal responsibly bottle opener, I have a couple up here if you want some. Yeah, and that's a key component of Drupaling responsibly is have version control. I have a couple up here. If not, stop by. If I run out of them here, stop by our table downstairs. And thanks for coming. So I appreciate it.